Alright folks, today we are going to compare the Rosewill Nighthawk Z to the DeepCool Matrexx 50. Now, there are quite a few different Matrexx cases out there, have a lot of similarities. This one is pretty much my favorite, so but we'll talk about that one in a second. So I've had the 50 in it for a while. We've had this a couple months. Most of the time it is sat here empty, and but you know, I did finally slap a computer together, and it's kind of a basic one, but I wanted to go ahead and compare these. All right, so looking at this Nighthawk Z, you can just see how ridiculously big it is, right? That's a full tower. That is a mid tower. It's one of the biggest mid towers that you're going to find out there. So size wise, you know, obviously this is a lot bigger, possibly better airflow. Both of these support a ginormous Noctua CPU cooler. This is dual tower. Highly recommend this one. I love it. No problem fitting this in the Matrexx 50, and you won't have a problem getting it in the Nighthawk Z either. So a lot of room for that as far as the overall width of the case goes. Nighthawk Z came with 3 fans here and a 4th fan there, and they do light up. Over here I got one case fan, and I bought these. So those are up here. I think they're 120 millimeters. You can fit 140 in there. Eventually I will replace that with 140 millimeter. Of course, on the top here, there are 2 fans in there that you can get in there. You could put a radiator in there if you wanted. I don't have any fans up top of this one yet, but you could get those in there as well. This has a nice magnetic filter cover over it. This comes off really super easy. All right. And this guy has this thing, which I think somehow I broke it, but you know, it's kind of a cheap thing. Maybe I can fix it. I don't know. But yeah, you don't want to break this. It'll help keep the dust out when you're not using it. It does have a type of filter in there to keep some of the dust out. For the most part, you know, I'm leaving this thing up. So if I was going to ding anything on this, it was probably the overall quality of this thing so far. All right. Now, looking at connectors on the front, this has the capability of having 4 USB 3.0s on it and a USB 3.1 or Type-C. Of course, you got headphone and microphone. So that is pretty darn cool, folks. Of course, you've got to put the right motherboard in there that will support it. The one I'm showing does not have a second USB 3.0 connector, so you'll need 2 of these, if I remember correctly. This is the Type-C connector, so at least I have, I believe, 3 of the 5 on the front. Now, if you're going to ding something on the DeepCool Matrexx computers, this one only has one 3.0 on it and 2 USB 2.0s. It's got the microphone and headphone, and I think that's a reset. One of these I had the RGB on it. I think that's the 55. So there is, you know, I would say somewhat of a negative. Of course, this has a nice glass front on it. You can see your fans pretty good. Over in this guy, maybe let me move this for a brief moment. This guy has this type venting. I can't say it looks as good as the glass. Now, I'm not going to go around the back of these, because these are working computers, so I don't really have the wires all tied down, but they easily fit on your right hand access panel, so you won't have any problems there. Now let's talk power supply. You know, some of the cases, a little dust in here. Some of the cases now have this shroud, PSU shroud. Some don't have the window. I love the fact this has the window. I can tell what power supply I have in here. 650 watt. This is actually, one of these days, is going to get that power supply, but so far it's been working. And that is always a nice thing to know as I change out computers. I'm able to tell, hey, yeah, that's 650. You know, if it said 500 or whatever, I go, well, it's not, this setup's probably not going to work with just 500. Now over here, looking at the Nighthawk Z, I'm not a big fan of this. I kind of find it ugly to see that PSU sitting in there. Now I did go semi-modular over here, and in this case, you know, these are not in there quite like you would want them. Obviously, all this stuff I'm going to run around the back, but this would look a lot cleaner. So take that with a grain of salt. That cable management has not been done to its fullest at the moment. Now, hard drives. Okay, 3.5. Let's talk about first. So this has this chintzy plastic crap. Really, you know, flimsy. The whole thing is just junk, if you ask me. Not a big fan of it. I like the fact that this one has the hard drive hidden on the other side and has the actually has steel trays. So that aspect is pretty nice. Now, 2.5-inch drives. You can get a bunch of those in here. I'm thinking at least 4. If memory serves me correct. I've thrown one in here just for the heck of it. Over here, I believe you can only get 2 of those in there. All right, so not the best for additional storage for the 2.5s, but you know, if you're going to use it, if you're going to use mechanical hard drives, why not just use one or two big old 3.5 inchers and you know, stash them in there so you don't have to see them. You don't see the cables. And same over here, right? So so that may be, you know, kind of something. If you were to use all of the storage in here, or the ability to store all those hard drives, it's a nice feature. However, it's going to leave a lot of extra cables, and of course it'll look a lot nicer than this. You're just going to see basically your SATA power and your SATA cable coming up out of this hole, but you'll see it in you know, 4 places. So overall, you know, I like all of the access points inside of this Nighthawk Z case. These things don't really stay on here. It'd almost be nice if they would have just glued them permanently in there. So expect, you know, that they'll pop off, and then it's a little bit of a pain to put them back on there. Over here, this does not have that. You can tell that kind of looks like Swiss cheese in there. You know, maybe I would knock that one for that. I don't really like this huge, you know, opening back here that I can see. And then the fact that the ATX board, so that's a full ATX board, it's basically sitting on top of the shroud. It'd be nice if this case was about 1 inch taller, I think. Now, nice things though, your CPU power connector, you can see it is routed up over the motherboard and around the right hand side of this. Same thing here. This guy is able to be routed up and around. Okay, some cases the motherboard goes all the way up to the top of the case, and you know, that's kind of a nightmare, to be honest with you. So easy access from the back on these to if you wanted to add something like this after the fact, not a problem. Same thing over here, and lots of nice features on this one as far as your PCI cards that you're going to have. So these guys are actually removable and replaceable, okay? So that is actually a nice feature with these. And you don't see that too often, at least on the cases I deal with. You know, we're kind of a budget channel, and so we don't really get to buy all the high-end stuff. Now, of course, I did not put my input-output shield in here. Trying to think of why. Sometimes I get motherboards that don't have those. Sometimes I just keep the input-output shield in pristine condition and put it in the case. I believe I had this one, but I left it in the case. So obviously this thing is nice and wide, which is nice. It looks like the rear fan here, this is I don't know if this is either 80 or 120. Looks like you can go at least one size up, which would be good. And just so you can see it, here is on the back how you could access if you were going to add a CPU cooler after the fact. So you can see this thing is completely exposed. And the same on the Matrexx 50, no problem accessing that after the fact, right? So here is additional hard drive locations on the back of the Nighthawk Z, which is nice. And I'm not even going to show you anything else on the back of the 50. It's buried in wires. Now, overall, weight-wise, these are both pretty darn heavy. You know, I consider myself really strong. Definitely stronger than the average person by far. And I find these to be quite a bit pain in the ass to move around. This one is not that bad. This guy, though, wow. I don't know how much this thing weighs when it's fully loaded. Got to be 50 pounds. And, you know, the frame starts to really show that it's not the most rigid thing in the world as you pick it up. Definitely, you know, if you're a smaller person, this thing's going to be really big hassle. Female might have some difficulty with this. You might need a second person to move around. And, you know, other than that, trying to hide this under your desk could be an issue for some people. I've always got mine on sitting besides the desk and not actually underneath it. This guy, I sit on top of it. So if you watch the channel, you've probably seen the video. This is my main gaming rig. Of course, things change out of it. i9 in there, RTX 2070 Super. I don't even know which Samsung drives in that, but really good gaming computer. This guy, I don't know if it's my second best one, but it is you know, pretty decent. That's either an i3-9350KF, i5 96K. I don't even remember which processor's in there, but this one we're working up. It's probably going to be gaming rig number, we'll call it 3, because I'm going to have a Ryzen one that's going to almost be as good as this one eventually. So eventually you'll see a CPU cooler on this. Not that crappy Intel one. We'll put something on there like the Noctua. Obviously performance is better the cooler you keep your CPU, right? So yeah, there you have it, folks. Lots of space in this one. Most people will find this to be rather spacious. Now when you stick a big old Noctua CPU cooler in there, and or if you have a decent sized GPU, this does not look as spacious as it did when I first started building on it. It has gone through many iterations, and you know, as this channel has gotten more popular and I've gotten a few more dollars come in and we've bought some better stuff and we continue to invest in the channel, yeah, I get to see these things, you know, evolve basically. So one day you'll look at this might have 2 video cards in it at some point. So we'll see. But hey, thanks for checking out the video. Highly recommend this one for most of you. If you're a serious, like, let's say, gamer, CAD user, if you do both of those, a lot of photo editing, crazy crap like that, this one is got, you know, a lot of versatility for storage, and probably in the end, this will keep your equipment cooler than that guy's going to do. I haven't done any testing, can't actually prove that statement, but based on volume, yeah, it would definitely appear that that is the case, right? Plus the input-output points for cooler air appear to be greater on this one as well. So, hey, thanks for checking out the video. Please like, please subscribe. Thank you.